The Arab Peace Initiative is a comprehensive peace initiative first proposed in 2002 at the Beirut Summit of the Arab League by then Crown Prince King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia, and re-endorsed at the Riyadh Summit in 2007. The initiative attempts to end the Arab-Israeli conflict, which means normalizing relations between the entire Arab region and Israel, in exchange for a complete withdrawal from the occupied territories and a just settlement of the Palestinian refugee crisis based on UN Resolution 194. The initiative was initially overshadowed by the Passover massacre, a major terrorist attack that took place on March 27, 2002, and that had been claimed by the Izz ad-Din al-Qassam Brigade's Hamas military wing. The Arab League has since re-adopted the initiative on several occasions, including during the 2007 summit. Although a number of Israeli officials have responded to the initiative with both support and criticism, the Israeli government swiftly rejected the initiative, saying it was a non-starter at the time. Then Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon said the new plan cannot be accepted because it would replace UN Resolutions 242 and 338, which call for negotiations. In 2007, Benjamin Netanyahu, as opposition leader, as well as a number of Likud members, rejected the initiative outright. In 2009, President Shimon Peres expressed satisfaction at the U-turn in the attitudes of Arab states toward peace with Israel as reflected in the Saudi initiative, though he did qualify his comments by saying, Israel wasn't a partner to the wording of this initiative, therefore it doesn't have to agree to every word. The Palestinian Authority strongly supports the plan, and Mahmoud Abbas officially asked U.S. President Barack Obama to adopt it as part of his Middle East policy. Islamist political party Hamas, the elected government of the Gaza Strip, is deeply divided, with most factions rejecting the plan. More recently, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has expressed tentative support for the initiative, saying he accepts the general idea, with significant caveats. Specifically, its calls for Israel to withdraw from the Golan Heights and accept the relocation of millions of Palestinian refugees into Israel. George Mitchell, then the United States Special Envoy to the Middle East, announced in March 2009 that President Barack Obama's administration intends to incorporate the initiative into its Middle East policy. The plan, prelude to the 2002 Beirut Summit, the Arab League summit held in the aftermath of the massive Israeli victory in the Six-Day War, established the Khartoum Resolution on September 1, 1967, with the three no's that was to be the center of all Israeli-Arab relations after that point: no peace deals, no diplomatic recognitions, and no negotiations. UN Security Council Resolution 242, which called for normalization of Israel with the Arab states and for Israel to give up territories taken during the war, was enacted on November 22, 1967, and faced initial rejection by most of the Arab world. The Peace Initiative, according to Oxford Research Group, represents a total break from this past. Like most peace plans since 1967, it is based on UN Security Council Resolution 242. It followed the July 2000 Middle East Peace Summit at Camp David, which ended in failure, and the Al-Aqsa Intifada beginning in September 2000. In fall 2002, the Bush administration strenuously tried to push a temporary ceasefire in the Intifada to give breathing room for the Beirut Summit, but failed to achieve an agreement. However, the presence of American negotiator Anthony Zinni in Israel led to a lull in the conflict for the 2 weeks before the summit. During this period, the administration hoped to draw attention away from the Iraq disarmament crisis that would later escalate into the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Some reporters were skeptical about the summit's possibilities, Robert Fisk explained Egypt's Hosni Mubarak and Jordan's King Abdullah absences because they can smell a dead rat from quite a long way away. On March 14, analyst Shai Feldman stated on the NewsHour with Jim Lehrer that here's little hope that negotiations will pick up or that negotiations will eventually succeed in bringing about a negotiated outcome between the two sides, in both Palestine and Israel. However, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist Thomas Friedman met Saudi Crown Prince Abdullah in February 2002 and personally encouraged him to make the peace proposal. 2002 summit. The declaration: only 10 of the 22 leaders invited to the March 27 Arab League summit in Beirut, Lebanon could make it. The missing included Palestinian Authority Chairman Yasser Arafat, President Hosni Mubarak of Egypt, and King Abdullah of Jordan. Ariel Sharon's government, despite American and European pressure, had told Arafat that he would not be allowed to return if he left for the summit. The lack of participation led Australian Broadcasting Corporation reporter Tim Palmer to label the summit emasculated. The Arab League members unanimously endorsed the peace initiative on March 27. It consists of a comprehensive proposal to end the entire Arab-Israeli conflict. It provides in a relevant part complete withdrawal from the occupied Arab territories, including the Syrian Golan Heights, to the 4th of June 1967 line and the territories still occupied in southern Lebanon, attain a just solution to the problem of Palestinian refugees to be agreed upon in accordance with the UN General Assembly Resolution No. 194, except the establishment of an independent and sovereign Palestinian state on the Palestinian territories occupied since the 4th of June 1967 in the West Bank and Gaza Strip with East Jerusalem as its capital. In return, the Arab states will do the following: consider the Arab-Israeli conflict over, sign a peace agreement with Israel, and achieve peace for all states in the region, establish normal relations with Israel within the framework of this comprehensive peace. Crown Prince Abdullah of Saudi Arabia made the speech to the Arab League on the day of its adoption, saying that in spite of all that has happened and what still may happen, the primary issue in the heart and mind of every person in our Arab Islamic nation is the restoration of legitimate rights in Palestine, Syria and Lebanon. We believe in taking up arms in self-defense and to deter aggression. But we also believe in peace when it is based on justice and equity, and when it brings an end to conflict. Only within the context of true peace can normal relations flourish between the people of the region and allow the region to pursue development, rather than war. In light of the above, and with your backing and that of the Almighty, I propose that the Arab Summit put forward a clear and unanimous initiative addressed to the United Nations Security Council based on two basic issues: normal relations and security for Israel in exchange for full withdrawal from all occupied Arab territories, recognition of an independent Palestinian state with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital, and the return of refugees. The initiative refers to United Nations General Assembly Resolution 194, which emphasizes the return of Palestinian refugees to Israel. In a compromise wording, it states that the League supports any negotiated settlement between Israel and Palestinians and does not mention the term right of return. Resistance to the summit. Although the initiative was adopted unanimously, there was some debate on certain issues. The summit leaders faced stiff opposition from the government of Syria, which insisted on letting the Palestinians pursue armed resistance. It also objected to the use of the term normalization, and insisted that any such offer was too generous to Israel. The government of Lebanon expressed concerns that some of its Palestinian refugees would try to settle where they are, which it strongly opposes. Members of the Izz ad-Din al-Qassam Brigade's Hamas military wing committed the Passover massacre on that same day as the launching of the peace initiative. A suicide bomber at the Park Hotel in Netanya, Israel injured over 170 people and killed 30, with the victims including several children. Hamas spokesman Usama Hamdan said that, "This is a trial to send a letter, to send a message to all the world that we are trying to fight for our own freedom against a terrorist government in Israel led by Sharon, and that Israelis have to expect those attacks from everywhere, from every Palestinian group." Hamas leader Ahmed Jassin said that the attack sent a message to the Arab Summit to confirm that the Palestinian people continue to struggle for the land and to defend themselves no matter what measures the enemy takes. The Arab League said through a spokesperson they did not think the perpetrators purposely planned the massacre to derail the Beirut summit. The Palestinian Authority condemned the attack. Arafat personally ordered the arrests of militants associated with Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades as a response. However, Ariel Sharon blamed Arafat for the attack as well. Saudi Crown Prince Abdullah condemned it, while also commenting that, "I will add to this by saying to the Israeli people that if their government stopped its methods of violence and destruction, and agreed to real peace, we will not hesitate in accepting that Israel live in peace with the rest of the nations in the region." U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell stated that the bombing set the peace process back but vowed to continue. However, at that time an Israeli government spokesman stated that, "Here ain't going to be any negotiations under fire." Another Israeli government spokesman stated that, "We will continue to pursue the ceasefire. We want to establish a ceasefire. We want to bring an end to this wave of terrorist activity that is taking the life of our men, women, and children, innocent people, almost every day. But, at the same time, when we will feel that we have exhausted all the possibilities of achieving such a ceasefire, then of course we will take all the necessary measures in order to defend our citizens." The Passover massacre as well as other attacks lead to a deeper escalation of the Al-Aqsa Intifada and helped falter the initiative. The peace initiative received an initial mixed response from the Israelis and it has remained dormant since, despite some later comments that were more supportive. The resuscitation of the Intifada led the United Nations Security Council to issue a unanimous resolution on March 30, 2002, Resolution 1402, which criticized all sides. It provides in relevant part that, expressing its grave concern at the further deterioration of the situation, including the recent suicide bombings in Israel and the military attack against the headquarters of the President of the Palestinian Authority, calls upon both parties to move immediately to a meaningful ceasefire, calls for the withdrawal of Israeli troops from Palestinian cities, including Ramallah, and calls upon the parties to cooperate fully with Special Envoy Zinni, and others, to implement the Tenet Security Work Plan as a first step towards implementation of the Mitchell Committee recommendations, with the aim of resuming negotiations on a political settlement readoption at the 2007 Riyadh summit with the exception of Libya. All leaders from the Arab League's 22 member states attended the two-day summit in Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia, from March 28 to March 29, 2007. The initiative was fully re-endorsed by all members but the delegate from Hamas, then Palestinian Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh, abstained. In contrast, Palestinian Authority Chairman Mahmoud Abbas voted in favor. The initiative itself was left unchanged during its re-adoption. Until the eve of the summit, members had refused to consider altering any part of it. Arab League head Amra Moussa stated that the Israel-Palestinian conflict was at a crossroads where either we move towards a real peace or see an escalation in the situation. During the summit, King Abdullah denounced the United States-led occupation of Iraq. His comments may have been in response to a statement by U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice asking the Arab world to begin reaching out to Israel. He also called on the Israeli blockade of Gaza to end, saying that it has become necessary to end the unjust blockade imposed on the Palestinian people as soon as possible so that the peace process can move in an atmosphere far from oppression and force. The American and Israel governments had been heavily pushing the Arab states to cut their support for Hamas before the summit began. United Nations Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon attended the summit, saying, "The Arab Peace Initiative is one of the pillars of the peace process. It sends a signal that the Arabs are serious about achieving peace." European Union Foreign Policy leader Javier Solana observed the proceedings, and expressed the EU's support for the decision, saying that failure to rise to today's challenges will put the Middle East at risk of missing the train of human and economic development. He also emphasized that the initiative served as a proposal up for further negotiations rather than a take-it-or-leave-it ultimatum for both sides. PLO negotiations chief Saeb Erekat refused to accept anything other than the summit's draft and ruled out any negotiations that could alter it. In contrast, Saudi Foreign Minister Saudi Al-Faisal said that members have to take notice of new developments, which require additions and developments in whatever is offered. Implementation. The initiative calls for the establishment of a special committee composed of a portion of the Arab League's concerned member states, and the Secretary-General of the League of Arab States to pursue the necessary contacts to gain support for the initiative at all levels, particularly from the United Nations, the United Nations Security Council, the United States of America, the Russian Federation, the Muslim states and the European Union. This special commission would also consist of delegations from both Egypt and Jordan on behalf of the Arab world.